Hello, everyone. My name is Jim Pikarski, and I give Dharma talks in the Blue Lotus Meditation Center here in Venice, Florida. These are synopses of talks I've given at the center, and I put them online so that they're available to people anywhere. So today I would like to talk about a very common Eastern technique called not this, not that. It's used in Buddhism, and it's also used in Advaita Vedanta. And basically what it is that you find out what you are not. And by understanding what you are not, you come to realize who you actually are, your true nature. So, so the central problem is basically this. We experience things as a oneness, and within that field of oneness, which is our open awareness, individual things arise. And these individual things are just part of the oneness. They absolutely depend on naming for us to know them. So as an infant, you notice that, you don't really know what anything is. You just are open to life. And that's why innocence seems to be a quality of infancy. So once you name things, you create separation. So behind me, you can see a Buddha statue. That Buddha statue is different from the bookshelf that it's sitting on. And that is different from my body and different from the dresser on my other side. So all these are specific objects, and once they're named and understood, I differentiate between them. So this naming and identifying different objects is essential and practical for our survival. The problem is that all the objects we identify, we take some of these objects to be ourselves. So it's one thing to practically identify things in the world. It's another thing to identify myself and then take it to be an entity. So we move from just identifying the objects that are within my psyche, such as the mind and the body, and we identify with them. I begin to think that they are me in some way. So we go beyond just noticing them, and we're experiencing life through the vehicle of the body-mind. We grasp onto these things as self. Everyone does this. In spiritual unfoldment, everyone has to go through a process of disidentifying with a part of our experience. We recognize the truth of our direct experience. We are an experiential wholeness. Hopefully we can come to that understanding. It's kind of an understanding we lost. We just had that experience as an infant. We had it, but we didn't understand it. And so now it's time to understand it and to be able to re-inhabit this wholeness without just getting caught up in the mind and how the mind separates things. So an exercise that is very helpful is called not this, not that. So anything that you see, anything that you can notice, anything that's an object is the seen. And you are the seer. The seer is different than the seen. So the seer is one and the seen is many. So you can see a million different objects, but the one who sees all these things as one. And you cannot see the seer. You cannot see the seer because the seer is beyond objects. It is not an object. It is the ultimate subject. So what is looking is different than any other object. We can see a reflection of an eye in a mirror, but we cannot see the eye itself. Just as like we can see our thoughts about who we think we are, but we cannot see who we are directly. So what we are is somewhat mysterious. And to really be able to experience this, we need to experience it on a different level. So the seen cannot be the seer. If you see a wall, you understand that you are not the wall. Whatever is seeing is different than the wall. We can see objects in the environment, but we can also see the objects of the mind too. So there's not only objects in the environment like furniture and things like that and walls, there's also objects in our mind. Objects in our mind are things like thoughts, feelings, images, these things that go through our mind. So once we understand that these are objects like a desk or whatever, we begin to realize that they are not us. They're just another object. So we can begin our journey of disidentifying with these internal objects, particularly any objects that have to do with self. I mean, to identify with something really means that you do think it is yourself in some way. And we cannot know this just intellectually. We really need to explore this on an experiential basis, to go through examining this, because only through examining this and seeing it clearly can it go deeply enough for you to become free. Each time we examine what we think is me, a feeling or a thought, and then we realize it's just another object, and it cannot be me because I am the one that's witnessing it. So you are basically what is witnessing these things and not what they are. So the witness can never be the object. So if you're looking at your computer screen right now, you cannot be the computer screen because you are the one that's looking at it. It's kind of self-evident stuff. So we are always the subject, and the subject cannot see itself in the same way we see an object. It can only intuit itself as awareness or another one of its qualities. I particularly like awareness because awareness is the quality that is available all the time. Some of the other qualities are harder to notice because, for instance, one quality of our true nature is love, but you may not notice love. It can just appear as openness unless there's someone to love. So there's a couple of criteria to be able to do this, not that exercise. So one is we cannot be the object. We are the subject. We also cannot be what comes and goes. Our experience is continuous. Even though all kinds of different things appear to us, the act of experiencing is continuous. So I'm experiencing now, I was experiencing when I was dreaming, I was experiencing when I'm upset, I'm experiencing when I feel great, I experience all the time. So the thing about experience, or who I am, this experiencing quality I have, it doesn't come and go. What it experiences comes and go. So all these objects come and go, and they're all different objects. And even things like feeling good and feeling bad are just mental objects. They're just the quality of the mind at the time. So another criteria that you can look at is you are the wholeness of experience. Anything that is a part cannot be you. So a part of something. So in my experience right now, I'm looking at the computer screen, and in the computer screen I see myself talking, and I see the Buddha behind me, and I see all these things. All these things are appearing in my experience simultaneously. In other words, I have a wholeness of experience that the only way I can not be whole is I have to focus on one thing at a time, and that's the mind naming and focusing on something. So anything that is just a part cannot be you because you are a wholeness of experiencing. Another criteria that we look at for not this, not that, I'm not anything that we can conceptualize or envision in our mind. Anything that I can conceptualize or envision is just an object in my mind. It too comes and goes and cannot be the subject. So these ideas of Jim being a male, being 72 years old, living in Florida, teaching the Dharma, all these things are not me. They're practical descriptions. They're helpful in life, but they're not me. I cannot identify with them. If I identify with them, I lose who I truly am. So the thing about these things, we have 4 criteria. I'm going to run through them again just so you can get them. We cannot be the object. We are the subject. We cannot be what comes and goes. You are the wholeness of experience. You cannot be a part. And the 4th one is everything that we conceptualize or envision in our mind is something that is not us because it is an object. It is comes and goes, etc. So in Not This, Not That, well, you really start looking at the mental objects that are associated with the self. And we start applying these criteria to them. And we start realizing that they cannot be us because they do come and go. They are objects, all these things. So we look at the body. With the body tends to come and go. Why does it come and go? Because there's no continuous sensations of the body. They are always changing. So the body is an object to us also. So are all the bodily sensations that we feel. As soon as I say to myself, oh, I'm feeling heat, then I'm making an image out of that, and the heat is an object in my mind. Sensations of the breath. Many times we're not aware of our breath. And yet our experience continues in the background. So our breath can be an object to us too. So we can attend to the breath. Anything that we can attend to can become an object. The only thing that really cannot become an object when we attend to it is our true nature. Because our true nature is not an object. It is something that is wholeness. And it's challenging to attend to it because it's different than anything else you attend to. We cannot be our mental thoughts, emotions, and moods. They come and go, and they have a name, and they're separate, and they're objects in our consciousness. Our feelings about ourselves come and go. Sometimes I may be elated, and sometimes other times very sad. Since I can define them and separate them, they are objects. Thoughts of self. I can think about myself practically and realize that I have a male body, or I can identify with being male. Now the ego is involved, and I will feel threatened by anything that I imagine would be emasculating. So there are consequences to limiting ourselves. Once we limit ourselves to anything, what happens is that we start really believing that that's what we are. Once we believe that that's what we are, then what happens is we kick in our survival instincts and we start getting very defensive because we're trying to protect the ego. What is the ego? The ego is the mistaken identity that we have. The ego is there for practical purposes. It's not there for anything else. So if somebody asks me my age, I can tell them what my age is. So that's part of my ego understanding. That is just a practical tool for me to go through the world. It's not something that I should identify with. So one of the techniques basically of not this, not that is to go through all the ideas of yourself, being a body, being a mind, being a personality, feelings, beliefs about yourself, inspect them one by one. Use the criteria. Are they objects? Do they come and go? Are they mentally named or imagined? Are they parts and rather than a wholeness? So one thing that I find helpful to kind of get at the subtle feelings that I have associated with myself is just repeating my name to myself. So if I repeat my name to myself, what happens is that certain feelings, subtle feelings, will arise that are associated with my name. And what I can do is see these things as they arise. And when I see them as they arise, I can realize that there's something that comes and goes, they're objects, and I can realize that they're not me. And when I realize that they're not me, I can drop them and be free of these feelings. Or just have the feelings arise when it's practical for them to do so, rather than believe in them. So there are many things that we grasp onto as a self. Sometimes there are subtle body feelings that we associate with ourselves. Sometimes there's subtle emotions that we associate with ourselves. All these things are objects, and all of them are not self. So another technique you can use, and this has been particularly helpful to me, is what is the pure subject? In other words, what is it that is experiencing all this stuff? So what is it that is experiencing all this stuff? You'll find is not an object. It doesn't come and go. It's not a part, it's a wholeness. And it's not a concept or just an image. It is a direct, whole experience. And it's continuous. It's with us all the time. So watch what is watching. Attend to awareness and really explore this and find out what it is. And if you do this and at the same time you disidentify with what you are not, you have a wonderful opportunity to realize your true nature. So this may take some time because our mind is very conditioned. What we have to do is we have to apply these tools long enough to really break that conditioning. If you apply these tools long enough, what happens is that the conditioning just sooner or later lets go. And you no longer are identified with your ego. You just settle into your true nature. And then instead of being in the ego most of the time and every once in a while having a spiritual experience, now you're in your true nature. You're always in your true nature anyway, but you realize you're in your true nature. And every once in a while you get caught in a conditioned thought. And even that goes away after a while. So, not this, not that. Hopefully you can use this to really discover who you are. It is an incredible technique. It's many, many people have discovered who they are through doing this. It is a basic technique of Buddhism and a basic technique of Advaita Vedanta. So good luck. Thanks for listening. Bye.